Well, with Queen Elizabeth II gone and King Charles III now on the throne, the Australian Republican movement is trying to sharpen its act and broaden its appeal. Wisely, their former chairman, Peter Fitzsimons, has moved on. He's the one with the red bandana who loves a bit of Twitter-level leftist virtue signalling. He was never going to win over mainstream Australia. The movement has elected its new chairman, former Socceroo, now SBS broadcaster and human rights activist Craig Foster. And he joins me now live from Sydney. Good to talk to you, Craig. Congratulations on the election win.
Thank you, Chris. Look, I'm delighted to be here. I thank all the members, of course, who voted for us. I think we've got a wonderful national committee. I'm pretty sure that Peter doesn't wear that bandana anymore, but look, he did a great job in difficult times when, it wasn't at the forefront of the national consciousness. And as you said, after the passing of the most recent monarch, prior to Charles, it certainly is on the agenda, and with a federal government talking about a possible referendum, it's a really exciting time for the movement. I'm sure we'll be speaking a lot over the next couple of years, so I'm happy to speak to you.
Yeah, I don't know that he made much progress, Fitzy, because I think he was identified too strongly with the left of politics. I think if you're going to win over the Republic, you've got to get the broad mainstream, you've got to be centrist, you've got to win over people who might vote coalition and still want a republic. And that's why I was critical of Peter Fitzsimons. And what about you? I'd strongly identified with some progressive causes now, particularly border protection and refugees. Are you conscious of this, not being a woke left organisation? You need to win over the mainstream?
Look, I agree with your proposition that everyone needs to come on board. That's certainly true. I don't know whether that's necessarily true of Peter, but I take your personal opinion. My position is that this is a movement for all Australians, and so I'm a human rights advocate. I'm also an equality advocate. I'm a fairness advocate. I'm an advocate for egalitarianism in Australia, a huge advocate, and in particular I'm an advocate against hereditary entitlement, something that I think is anathema to the vast majority of Australians. So I was reading just today about back in the late 90s. I know you'd be an expert on that, and the fact that both Whitlam and Fraser were big supporters of the Republic. That I think demonstrates the type of bipartisan support that's necessary. Every Australian should feel comfortable with the nature of the move and of the change that's happening. So yes, it's a very broad movement. Everyone is welcome, and that's why I've been at pains in the last couple of days, Chris, to talk a little bit about the monarchy, more about the vision for Australia, about our multicultural contemporary nature, and how I feel that an Australian head of state is timely and I think would bring to life all of those principles I talked about. And Australia's a very different place only in the last 25 years, let alone the last 121.
I'm pleased to hear you talking about being opposed to hereditary monarchy, because that's the issue. Yeah. We've got to discuss that rather than this sort of jingoism about the head of state having to be one of us. Now, just on this, I noticed that you're proposing for your organisation a co-chair situation, so that you would always have a male chair and a female chair. Now that's sort of politically correct, and that's an equality measure that we would all understand. But you're never going to be able to do that with the president. If we choose to call the head of our country the president or governor general, you can't have two in there. In the end, someone just has to be one sex or the other. Can't we deal with that?
Sure. Well, actually, what I was proposing is that the ARM has the opportunity to appoint co-chairs if they choose to do so. At the moment, the choice is not even available to them, and I think it's very, very important, particularly given that equality principle that I was talking about before. But there's a big difference between what Australia sees as appropriate for the head of state and what we see as appropriate for the actual organisation that is approaching, the movement behind it, which is very much a grass-led community approach. So I would love to see that come to life. I'm, advocating as my strong preference that we do change the ARM constitution itself. I'll be talking to the AGM just on the weekend about that, and I'm hopeful that our many thousands of members around the country find themselves in agreement. I think it would be a wonderful step forward.